Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? We will just give some people a couple of minutes just to join in. I've had a number of messages saying that people may be about 30 seconds to a minute late, so I'll just give them a little bit of time. So who have we got here? Stacey McNair. Stacey, hello. Hope you're well. Hope your partner's well. Leah Lee, nice to see you. We've got Caleb Schultes. Let's have a look. John Leslie Gay, up the Bruce. Thanks very much. G, my G. So we've got, it's going up 23 people. Oh, we've got some. I thought this one would be interesting. Yeah, because obviously Tiger King. Let's get to it. Tiger King. It is a very, how can we say, evocative docu-series that Netflix have put on. And as you log in, just put who you are, where you're from, and I'll try my best to say hello to everybody. Carole Baskin. Okay, Jake, nice to see you here. Nick Harmer. Nick, good to see you, sir. Thank you very much for your comments on my videos as well, Nick. But yeah, Tiger King, it's proven quite an evocative subject, so I thought I've got to do one of my Thursday night shows on this. There's just too much interest. And from a body language perspective, it was really, really interesting. So again, if obviously this one will be putting up on a stream as well, that will go onto YouTube after this. So if you are watching this after the live show, if I will, you might want to skip past this few minutes because I'm just welcoming everybody who's there. Hello, Bruce. I'm Gaz from the Toon. Hello, Gaz from the Toon. Kevin Mullen, Jamie Culligan, Mike. Whatever that name is from San Francisco, that is a cool name. And if anybody can say that without sounding rude, then I'll give £5 English to you. Bubba all the way from the Netherlands. Bonnie D'Angelo, hello. Jordan, hey Bruce, hey Jordan. We are getting some comments there, which is great. And again, I'm going to be giving you my angle on the sort of Tiger King thing that I've been contacted from people from all over the world. But again, towards the middle stroke, end part of the show, I'll be asking you for your input because there's some messages that I've been getting from people saying, do you know where the sort of avenue where she was picked up was quite notorious for a certain profession for ladies to do in the middle of the night? I was like, oh, I didn't know that. And there's loads of stuff coming through. So tonight's going to be very much an interactive where I'll be giving you a little bit of breakdown about my thoughts and why I think that, and then some background about what's going in with the body, anxiety, why I think questioning would be great for Carole Baskin. But also I'll be asking you and your opinions as well. And remember, you can always connect with me at Instagram, which is BelieveInBruce360, and at Twitter, which is BelieveInBruce. If you've got any questions or any specific things, I get a lot of messages, but I do try to get back to everybody as best I can. I've got a family, I've got another job, etc. But I do try my best. So again, if you're here, remember, please give this stream a thumbs up if you can do that now. If you can show some love, give me a thumbs up. That really helps with the algorithm and helps when people are searching this video when it's live, but also when it is after, when it's been put up after we've ended this live session. So we've got Andrew Bridge from Chelmsford, Pappy Rooster from Minnesota. Sean will speak. If she didn't say anything after, I don't think it'll be this big. What do you think? We'll get into that. Lynn Fairbairn, hi from sunny Scotland. Lynn, I know you're lying. Scotland only ever gets 2 days of sunshine per year. And Anna Banana, fantastic name. I don't think we're going to beat that one. Tanya, hi. So like I say, we'll just give about another minute or so for people to join in for the notification to come up on their screen. But can you just let me know in the comments by either a yes or a no, have you been watching Tiger King? Have you saw it? Just yes or no. I'm just interested in how many of the people who are joining in today have seen the actual documentary, please. So both of us, yes. big yes from Lisa there. Melanie, yes. Gary, aye. Bob Gray, yes. So we've got Christine, yes. There's definitely a few yeses. Hell yes. No, Tanya's just joined it in because she might be interested, like the body language. First episode only from Jordan, Mr. Cooper. Remember, guys, to smash that like button as well. That would really help me out if you're just joining the channel now. Yes, we've just finished the last episode about 15 minutes ago. Isle of Man. Right, okay. Chris Stobart, yes, thinking of getting his haircut. Khalil will be able to do that for you. So, here we go. So, Tiger King, what we're going to be covering this. And again, when I'm speaking about it, all right, when I'm giving you some of the facts and figures and some of the neuroscience that sits behind body language, try and think of it as if, like, I'm doing it on you. Yeah, so you're actually seeing yourself, or maybe it's that I'm the one who is assessing your body language, etc. All right. But it's important to note that we will be covering the body language. I'm going to do that first, all right, because I've got a lot of questions. Well, what does this mean? What does that mean? So I'm going to quickly recover some of the body language stuff and go into the specifics so you can maybe get a more detailed understanding of it. But then also what I'll be doing towards maybe halfway through the stream is I'll be asking you some questions, because there's some information out there that I'm not aware of, or I have become aware of since I've done my first body language video 2 days ago, that could have a real meaningful impact on why Carole Baskin does certain things. So again, just a quick yes or a no. Can you put in the comments there, if you have watched the documentary, on the data that you've got, yes or no, do you think Carole either killed or had a part in her husband's disappearance? Just quickly, yes or no, into the comments there, just so I can see, public opinion out there, and to see where my current audience is sitting on actually what happened, in that particular time with Carole Baskin and her previous husband. Buffer, shout out to you, son. Mike Hawk for the buffer. So 100%, yes, she did. Yes, she did. She's had a part in it for sure. Okay, yeah, so we're coming through here. Brilliant. We're getting some, yeah. It's interesting. There's not one person who's just said, no, she's absolutely not guilty. These Ellie's gone with a 10 million %, I think that is. Fantastic. Okay, so that's our baseline. But what I would like you to do now, and this is not just for Carole Baskin, all right? It's not just for Tiger Flicks, because we must remind ourselves, all right? We've got to remind ourselves that legally, by law, Carole Baskin has been found not guilty, all right? So she is, she's not been found guilty, I should say, up until this point. So that's a standing to come from. And what we're also going to be looking at this particular series, or this episode on this stream, is a thing called heuristic bias, conscious bias, and subconscious bias. Now, the reason why I'm going to cover those three things, and they're roughly the same, they've just got different angles, and we pull data from different areas for different meanings. But this is definitely what's going on here, because also, in fairness to Carole, all right, and I always, as you know, if you've been with me from the start or watched any of my previous videos, I always try to be fair and balanced. Yeah, I always try to be fair and balanced. I always try to pick up data that is factual rather than emotional. If we are reacting on emotion, we're more likely to be sporadic. We're more likely to get things wrong. We're more likely to make decisions based on not accurate information, which is rarely helpful. Okay, so the angle that I always come from. Now, I've been involved in lots of accident investigations. From a safety perspective, to go in, what's happened, try to find out the actual real reason about why something happened, to see if we can prevent it happening again. And I've been approached from different organizations from a body language perspective to say, Bruce, cast your eye over this or cast your eye over that. What do you think? Is there anything else you think, that we're missing out on? And what you should always try to do, now this may be your partner, this may be someone from work, this may be one of your friends, is always try to come from an angle of what I said in my first video. In your head, position yourself, which is exactly what I've done with Carole Baskin here. I position myself is that I firmly believe she's innocent, and I firmly believe that anything that she does that could disprove her innocence is I want to keep away from the prosecution. So in my mind here, to help me look for the data, to help me look for the truth, to help me deal with my conscious bias that, yeah, she is a quirky character. Oh, her husband just disappeared, therefore she must be guilty, because you've got to cerebrally really fight against those judgments that you make. And we judge everybody, yeah? the old saying across here is that don't judge a book by its cover. And we say it as if that's achievable. Everybody judges everything. I judge everybody in a split second, but where the skill comes is being able to recognize that you make that judgment and then start to analyze it based on data. Why do I think that about that person? Why do you think that about Bruce? He's got tattoos, he's got a watch, he's got a bow tie, he's from Newcastle. People will make judgments about me, and that's fine because that's what we do as humans. But where we need to get better at is start to challenge those. So the way I looked at this and the way you can look at any situation is to help you be more logical, more calm, and to get more right first time. Look at it based on, and that particular situation, I am defending Carole. I want to prove Carole's innocence. What information would I not want the prosecution to notice? And by doing it like that, you fight against your subconscious bias. You fight against I want her to be guilty, and you're more balanced. So when I done my body language analysis, that was the angle that I took. All right. So it was fair. It was balanced. It was in the premises of me trying to defend Carole. So when I started noticing certain things that I wanted to keep from and remember this, I'm not Carole's lawyer, by the way. This prosecution defense thing is just in my head. It just helps me keep fair and balanced. But what information? What did she do? What did she see? How did she see it? What didn't add up? Where was there a lack of synchrony? Where was there a lack of congruence? That's the stuff that I wanted to keep away from the prosecution. And because I wanted to keep that away from the prosecution, that's the stuff that I zoned in on. Because the reason why I noticed it and the reason why I wanted to keep it away from the prosecution is something didn't add up. 2 and 2 was not equivalent 4. So we're going to be looking at a thing called magnification here. Now, some of you might do this. In fact, think of a situation where something hasn't gone your way. All right, you've either been hurt, emotionally wounded, you went for a job and you didn't get it. Yes, you tried to ask someone if they wanted to come for a drink and they turned you down. Something where it just hasn't gone your way. And what we can do as humans is we can do a thing called catastrophization or magnification. Is what we'll do is we will pick up on the small parts of all of the data that we've got available, and we'll start turning that into a story in our head. All right, we'll magnify the parts that help us relay a story to ourselves about the story that we want to believe in. It was interesting, Conor McGregor mentioned today, Khabib has just pulled out, for any MMA fans who might be online here. So Khabib has just pulled out of UFC 249. He was meant to be fighting Tony Ferguson. And Conor McGregor gave a narrative that had I been fighting, I would have selected the data that would have enabled me to make a wrong decision just because I wanted to fight. So what Conor was saying was, again, this is where you get heuristic bias and conscious bias, etc. Magnification. Is that because Conor wanted to fight, what he would have done, he would have looked at all of the data that was present that would have give him in his head the reason to fight. He would have pushed all of the other data that was out there to the side because he just wanted to fight. So this is what we've got going on with Carole Baskin here. A lot of the data that we've got is we're searching for stuff that allows people to think, she is guilty, and I'm going to push all the other stuff away to the side that that actually may prove that she's not guilty. So that's the angle that I took. So you bet your bottom dollar that when I started talking about my body language, that was the stuff that 100% wasn't making sense. It doesn't mean that she's lying or not. And again, in all the videos, I'm very transparent about this. It doesn't mean that she's lying or not. But what it does mean, without a shadow of a doubt, is there's something going on at that particular time in her head that's not matching up with what she's saying. 100%. That is exactly what's going on there. And from a trained questioner's perspective, like myself, if I was trying to question somebody and they'd done something that didn't add up, boom, I'm on them. I'm not going to move anywhere. That there did not make sense. Why didn't it make sense? Why did she show that emotion? Why didn't she show that emotion? Why did she exhibit that behavior when that's uncommon in that particular situation? All of this stuff, boom, 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 boom. And that's the thing that I don't think Carole Baskin has had done to her. I think she's had a lot of control in the situation. Again, we're going to get into the deputy and the brother and how he just randomly picked her up at 3 o'clock in the morning, etc. But what I do see, and it was interesting. If you guys don't know, one of the lads who's been really supportive of me is a guy called True Geordie. True Geordie, fantastic channel. Have a look at these. There's really good. In fact, he's done a fantastic Conor McGregor. I think I must be on to my 6th or 7th rewatch of that during this sort of lockdown period. But have a look at True Geordie's channel. Really, really good guy. And he texted me, he said, look, Bruce, I think you should have a look at this. And I'd already got a few messages before. But I thought, well, if he's texting, there must be some energy around this within the YouTube community. And as soon as you started searching for this, Carole Baskin with the Netflix, all of this stuff was coming up. So we're already being a little bit conditioned to thinking that she is guilty, all right? A little bit that she's already guilty. So I decided to stop there, turn it around. I'm protecting her. What do I keep away from the prosecution, all right? And the first thing that I've got here is that when Carole Baskin, so I'm just going to take a quick drink. At the very start of my video, and I will put a link below for those people who haven't seen it in my body language assessment. And you had to be so quick to say it. In fact, let me know in the comments below if you had seen it without me pointing it out. Is the first one was some lip compression. Now, lip compression looks like this. Somebody might say something to me. I detect a threat, or I detect some type of energy in my head that I want to say something, but I view it as if I say that, it will be unhelpful. I haven't got the psychological safety to say it, so I will keep it in. But what it looks like is this. You see people do. There's generally a lick of the lips or like that. But the lips tell you that they are trying to keep something in. And when I was viewing, remember, the actual amount of data that I had to go off on episode 3 of Tiger King was very limited. There was some old footage. There wasn't really any, direct questioning for any elongated period of time where you could really get a solid emotional baseline for which you could then judge above or below. But 100%, the first thing I noticed was when she said, I did not threaten my husband, about half a second, there was a lip compression, and then it flicked to like a scene of a tiger. It was so quick that a lot of people didn't see it, but not believe in Bruce. All right, because this is my job. This is what I look for. It's part of my job. And that lip compression there. Now, what we had, and again, put the comments below. There was a will. There was a will that had been changed, but more so than that, there was a restraining order that had went out. And that was made available within the episode. Roundabout that the guy, Don, had approached the police. He had given a statement. He had asked for a restraining order. And on that document itself, it said something along the lines, not word for word, so please don't take it as this, but the feeling was, I'm in fear for my life. I think she's going to kill me. She's got like a 45 revolver or something like that. So there was a definite cause for further questioning where she said, I've never threatened my husband, and a lip compression, followed by, the actual putting that together of the restraining order request from her husband. So now a lip compression, that lip compression doesn't, again, remember, I'm trying to be fair and balanced here. That lip compression doesn't necessarily mean that she has hit him or stabbed him or done anything like that. It absolutely could. But without the questioning in that particular time, is that we don't know what the lip compression was there for, but we do know without question that there was a lip compression. Does this make sense? So again, because of the lack of proper questioning, is that at that particular time, I had seen that lip compression. I would have been on it, absolutely on it, not letting her off the hook until she had either A, explained it, or B, give the game away by me and my questioning techniques. But there was 100% lip compression, which means she wanted to say something, she didn't, but we do not know what she did or did not want to say. That's the fact. And again, I hear the case has been reopened, and I think anybody with a decent level of questioning technique, a skill of how to do it, would be able to start firing her, amygdala, that fight, flight, or freeze response, because it was all there within the body language, all there. We just needed to dig that little bit deeper, because it may be that she actually has something else that proves her innocence. We've always got to bear this in mind. But it may be that what she's not saying, or the reason why her body language isn't added up to her the words that are coming out, the narrative, why that synchrony and congruence isn't there, is that she may have something to hide. But without that proper questioning, we may never know. So the second one here is about there, and I wanted to bring this to your attention as well, was the manic laugh. The manic laugh. And again, let me know in the comments to the side there. Have you noticed when you were watching it, she does this very uncommon, it's almost like too exaggerated, too energetic. It's a cover-up type of laugh. And when you get that type of laugh, it's called the Duchenne smile. So when people smile, now you may have this in your experience. Somebody's wanted to take a photo for Facebook or Instagram, and you haven't really felt like getting your photograph taken. It's a fake smile, so your mouth will come up, but nothing really happens to your eyes. That's the Duchenne smile. It was the person who actually noticed the difference between genuine smiles and fake smiles. I think this is what we've got going on with this laugh as well, is that she says it she displays the laugh at an uncommon time. Generally when she's speaking about her husband's disappearance, generally when she's speaking about, did she murder him or not? That's when I noticed, again, just from the data on the episode. And again, I've only got that to go off. That may have been edited. We've always got to keep that in mind. But when she did talk about, and again, that laugh came out, it just didn't seem the correct response that one would expect when someone's husband's been missing, murdered, whatever, and then you've got the partner who was doing this over-exaggerated laugh, fake, nervous, an act, a performance, if I can call it that. Yeah, a performance, if I can call it that. Again, I'm loving the comments here. We've got Gary. She cuts her new bloke off whenever he talks. You can tell by the way she talks about her dead husband. Mozart, good to see you again, Mozart. Carole's husband and brother, both Freemasons, cover-up artists. Gary, she blinks 100 miles an hour as well when talking about the disappearance. So all of this stuff is that we are all noticing stuff, but without further questioning and keeping someone on that particular point. I think that's why there's a lot of gaps. That's why the case may not have been as solid as it could have been, because it wasn't handled correctly in order to get the truth. Yeah, quite simply, it wasn't handled correctly in order to get the truth. So we've got this manic laugh, but then again, on some of the videos that I have described in the past, it's what we look for called behavioral clusters. All right. So the more things, the more ducks you get in a row, the more that somebody does something. So they might do this with the body, they might say it like this, they might do this with the eyes. If that all happens at the same time, we call that a behavioral cluster. And the more things that you've got happening at that particular time, the more solid it is that something else is going on there, that it's least worth further investigation. And what we have as a cluster when she's being asked about her husband is a total, and I'm talking total, lack of any type of empathic emotion. Any type of sadness, emptiness, a desire to have him back by her side. There is just nothing at all there. All right, nothing at all. And I'm trying to think of it because I don't want to be, too strong, but I'm trying to be fair and balanced. But I honestly did not notice at any one time a presentation of emotion that I would present if something happened to my partner, if something happened to someone that I loved, if I had been involved in that situation and I didn't know that would crucify me. Yeah, like the sort of disappearance, the not known. And what was really telling, all right, what was really telling, and this is where my little friends come in here, all right, is when you talk about neuro-linguistic programming or any type of stuff like anchoring, what's the body doing, etc., is that generally, and again, it is just a general rule, but when you're asking those questions, you start, remember, we talk about here on the Believe in Bruce channel, thinking, feeling, and acting. Thinking, feeling, and acting. It always goes in there. So we get some data, we'll think about it in a certain way. That thought process will then affect our hormonal regulation, put those two together, and that's how we perform. That's how we act. That's how it works in a very baseline, generic overview way. So when Carole has presented this information, and thank you very much for the thumbs up, by the way, 55 likes. If you've just joined, please smash that like button again. That would be fantastic to support the channel. That's really good. Thank you. So yeah, when Carole's been asked these questions, generally what a common behavioral response is from a body language perspective, when you just take into consideration the eyes, is that if you're asking somebody a question and that situation is present, your partner has been, imagine if you've had a child abducted or something terrible like this, yeah? When you're asked those type of questions, generally you'll search down. Down is negative, yeah? You go down and you'll start recalling memories, and because it's that empathic sad feeling, yeah, we'll feel it, but we'll look down. We're reaching from the hippocampus, emotional memories that have stored that makes us feel sad, that makes us feel frustrated, that, you know, it's like I'm looking down because I'm recollecting here. I don't see any looking down in Carole. If anything, she starts going from side to side, generally an indication that she's searching for an answer, generally. But there's a total, as far as I'm aware, and I am prepared to be proved wrong, a lack of any empathic eye movements where she's searching for that lost love. She's searching for someone who she was married to, she was going to spend her life with, someone who's been ripped away from her, and she doesn't know what happened. Again, so you've got that manic laugh, which is just uncommon in those situations. But also the fact that it was over-exaggerated, the fact that it seemed like a performance, put it together with this behavioral cluster of there is zero, and remember we're talking about autonomous reactions here. Autonomous reactions. And there was a part in where she was getting interviewed in the car, and the reporter had asked about, did you have any specific memorial service? I think it was memorial service. Again, but you know, word for word, I might not be, because there was a lot of information, but it was something along the lines of, word for word, have you had a memorial for him? Sorry. And I know, because I've interviewed thousands of people. When you ask them a question like that, you go down because it's a sad, it's empathic, and like, even if she hadn't, there would usually be, again, it would be common for, if you haven't had a memorial, it'd be like, no, but I wish I had. And you look down, it's almost like you're being told off, because if there is any emotional connection there, you think, do you know what? Maybe I should have. Maybe I should have. But at that particular moment, you look down. Zero. When she's asked that question, what she does, again, there's an overemphasized area of this, okay? And again, watch it on episode 3. It's as if she's overemphasizing her answer. And what you can get is, again, with that emotional baseline, is that for me, I tend not to blink. You know, sometimes I blink, sometimes I don't. But Carole Baskin blinked quite a lot. And again, that might have been her emotional baseline. That's fine. Because once you've got that emotional baseline, you look above or you look below. When do they do more of it? When do they do less of it? Something's going on at that particular T-junction. But when she's asked that question, she sort of stares directly at the reporter as if she's trying to overemphasize. No, it's the stare that's uncommon. So not only does she not look down, not only does she have this manic laugh, it's the fact that she stares at the reporter as if trying to over exaggerate. There's too much energy there. There's too much energy for that particular response within that situation about the context that they're on about. So when you put those three things together, one of them would be enough for me. But when you put those three things together in any situation, I would not be moving off that spot there. I would not be moving off that spot. Then she brings up the fourth thing. The fourth. She picks up the letter early in the morning or whatever it is. Bearing in mind, throughout the whole of episode 3, she never, ever showed any empathic emotion to the fact that her husband has been killed, disappeared, murdered, kidnapped, whatever. Yeah, whatever. Yet, on the day she got the death letter, as she called it, the day she got the death letter, she picked up that letter, and then all of a sudden, it was pitch black at night time. Think about that. She showed no emotion at all, yet on that particular moment, when she picked up the death letter, she's lost hours. She doesn't know what's happened to her. She doesn't know where she's gone. Yeah. So, in fact, from the family, because I think they had to wait 5 years until they could go through this death process and missing person, etc. 5 years in one day, she started on that particular day changing all of the wills or the property details into her names. Now, again, this is just the evidence that the Don's first wife and their daughters give. So you've got something where, just on Carole, remember, because what other people say can be circumstantial, it can be manipulated, their heuristic biases and stuff can come in. So you've got to take that with a pinch of salt. But you've got Carole, the manic laugh, the Duchenne smile, the zero lack of emotion, the staring at the guy directly instead of looking down, which would be associated with empathic feelings when you've lost someone that you love or close to you. But then also what you've got is the fact that when she got that letter, remember, you've got to wait 5 years for that to come. So if that's landed the next day, she says that, it was pitch black, but then you've got another family saying on that very first day after the 5th year, she's actually running around solicitors' offices, changing deeds and names, and there's just stuff that doesn't add up. Yeah, there is just stuff that doesn't add up. And that's the areas that I would be exploring. And remember, I know it might, sort of spoil people's Christmas parties, that I'm not saying she's 100% guilty. What I am saying, without question, is that there is some stuff that she is doing that does not make sense. There is some stuff that she is saying that does not make sense. There is some body actions that she's displaying that does not equal what you would expect in those situations. And that is unquestionable, undeniable, that it's there. And if you notice, I'm not making any assumptions based from this. What I'm saying is, she's doing this, she's doing that, she's not doing this, she's not doing that. And all of those points, every single point I've made, I would dig that little bit deeper. Because I know from, again, doing this for 20 years now, there is so much stuff just waiting to be uncovered. But again, I'm just going to take a drink. Give us some questions in the comments below. If you've got any questions, I'll do a quick couple of minutes, quick fire questions. Yeah, I just want to have a drink. Can you wish my wishes, Wendy Thompson? Happy 40th birthday, Wendy. Probably got nothing to do with Tiger King, but hey, I must, so I will do it. Jake Thebus, I hope she's watching. They have Bonnie. They have reopened the case. I wonder if she'll be interviewed again. That would be an interesting one. Hey, FBI, just pick up. This is a kind of Red Bull, by the way. Just pick up the phone if you want someone to come in within 10 minutes. I think I could have a few gaps for you to start prodding just that little bit more. That's what you do. Prod and poke. Septic tank or tigers. Well, I'll actually come to that because that is a very good point. So, the one that, how can I say, the one that's caused the most interest for me, the one that's caused the most interest is early early, early. Yeah. Early, early, early. Now, again, I'm not from that part of the world. So saying something 3 times may be common practice over there. It may be part of their culture. They may repeat that. He may have been exhausted, etc. But again, what we've got is we've got some behavioral clusters here. So luckily enough, within that video, within episode 3, you've got 2 questions that have been taken years apart, years apart, that elicit the same words from Carole. The second answer is slightly different, and I'll explain that in a little bit, but it definitely includes the words early, early, early. Let me know let me know in the comments if you have noticed that the early, 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 because what you've got is in the first. And remember, I will put the link for my initial body language video in the description below when we finish this seminar. But what we've got here is a potential. When she says early, 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 if you notice, and I didn't include it, as I'm saying it now, I've just reminded myself that I didn't include it in the video. There's an I block from Carole. Yeah, there's an I block from Carole. Yeah, he said he was leaving early, early, early for Miami or Costa Rica or wherever she says she was going. But there's a definite I block on the first video when she's younger, probably at the time when it occurred. Now, as we know, and again, if you've been working with me on the Believer in Bruce channel for any number of my previous videos, an I block. And watch for this in your life, whether it be in work meetings, whether it be with your partner, whether it be with your children, whatever. But an I block, if they say something and then at that particular time they do an I block, and an I block is just a blink. Carole done sort of triple I blocks, so there was images coming to her that she was trying to shut out. I blocking is a universal, all right? It's not idiosyncratic. It's not specific for that individual. It's classed as a universal sign of body language, which is I'm thinking of something here, or I'm being asked something. So somebody can ask me a question, or I'm giving them an answer. And if that particular moment I start to blink, I start to shudder, when I'm being asked that question or when I'm answering it, either above what I do or below what I do, then there's a thing going on where we're trying to block out the particular images that we're thinking of. This is not my opinion. As we say, biology does not lie. But there is a definite I block when she says early within the first video. Again, you can't take anything from that other than the fact that she's given I block when she said something. But she does give an I block. Again, I wouldn't move. I would be on that there, starting to dig that little bit deeper. And again, I always get really good feedback because I always try to be fair and balanced. And I think that's the best place to be, because when you're not trying to get an answer, that's when you discover the truth. When you're not trying to drive towards an outcome, that's when you're more aware of all the data that you've got to go off. All right. So this early, early, early. Now, I can only, reflect on my experience as I sit right here in this chair now, is that I have never heard somebody say early, early, early. Just the same as I've never heard someone, if I've asked someone, what time are you, or I've asked my wife, what time are you coming in tonight if she's away out with her friends? She's never said late, late, late. It's just an uncommon. Now, he might have been exhausted. Oh, look, I'm going early, early, early. All right. It's just uncommon. But it's when she looks up, when she's searching for that answer, when she's trying to actually do something up here. Remember when she's asked about that, again, because we've got an emotional baseline through the program. Have you had any type of formal memorial service? She looks directly at the reporter. No. Now, that's something that's happened in the past. That is something that's happened in the past. She doesn't need to think about it. Boom, she's on it. And it's interesting because when she talks about, I think they got the first started getting this bobcats, and there's a part of the video where she says, year 1 we had 25, year 2 we had 32, year 3 we had, she knows specifically. So her speech cadence as well from past events is bang, bang, bang. She knows exactly how many bobcats she had or brought into that sanctuary year on year for 4 or 5 years, something along those lines. But The very time when she's asked about what was her husband saying to her, remember, husband's gone missing. He could have been killed. That should have been a potential either look at the camera or exactly as she did with the with that memorial service or down below, because I'm feeling sad. Like, it still resides within me. I didn't find the answer. I don't know where he is. Has he been killed? Has he been murdered? But what she does is she looks up. She looks up. She looks up as if it's a joke. There is zero emotion there. So you've got an uncommon, but maybe something that her and her husband done early. I've never ever told my wife I'm coming in late because they just wouldn't be allowed. But then what you've got is across here is the fact that she looks up. That's searching for, why does she need to search for that answer? Remember, body language is autonomous things. And I don't know why she searched up. Okay, we've got to be honest and we've got to be fair. But I do know that she searched because that's where her eyes done. And then what we've got is Kenny. Yeah, Kenny comes back into play here. Now remember, this is a conversation that will be of such importance to her because she would have been asked about it before, because the fact that her husband went missing. In the first angle, says, well, what happened? You know, when was the last time you saw your husband? Oh, well, he said he was going early, and I had to get the van ready. All right, so that was her, the eye block. But then he come to the second interview, which I believe the Netflix team done with her, obviously asked her something along the similar lines of that question. She looks up, she says the early. So the look up, she's searching. Yeah. But then she says, he asked me or Kenny, like I had to get Kenny to get the van ready. I'm like, well, who's Kenny? When somebody could be murdered, when somebody could be killed, when you could be the prime suspect, you put in all of the details there. Yeah, all of the details. So because both interviews were given with an almost flippant, I'm going to use the word like humorous. It's almost like she's telling a story at a party about, oh, you'll never believe what he's done. There's like humor there, but it doesn't go with the situation because it looks as though your husband's being killed. 100% your husband's disappeared. But then she rolls this out with almost like a humor as if she's at a dinner party and she's telling a story waiting for a public ovation when she hits the punchline. And then she brings Kenny. Well, was Kenny there? Why didn't you mention Kenny at the start? So was it Kenny or was it you? So it's not just the fact that it's early. It's the fact that where her eyes goes compared to the first one. Remember, you got that emotional baseline. But also that she displays humor, like a performance in a situation where that humor generally doesn't exist. And then also we've got Kenny as well. So yeah, I mean, that is an interesting one. But then further to what you've got, and we've got to present this, all right? We've got to present this, is what was she doing going for tiger milk at 3 a.m.? What was she doing going for tiger milk at 3 a.m. on the morning when her husband disappeared? Now, again, in the interest of being fair and being balanced, we've always got to keep this fair and balanced in mind, is that she might have, something might have occurred. I don't know. I've never raised tigers or lions, so I don't know their feeding patterns. I don't know, but it might be absolutely common for someone to go out at 3 a.m. in order to get tiger milk. She might have been, she's got the diapers, she's got the dummy, she just hasn't got the milk to put in the bottle. I've got no idea, all right? But what you've got then is, well, she hasn't got a great relationship with her brother. And she gives it in the video, like, I was 15 and my brother was 9, so we didn't have a great relationship. What, like 15 and that? There's 6 years between you. So you didn't get on with your brother. Again, I don't know the sort of personal family reasons behind that. There might well be, but just because there's a 6-year age gap, I know from my experience that, some of my kids, there's a huge difference between the youngest and the oldest. They've got fantastic relationships. But again, she overemphasizes with this manic laugh about how her brother didn't get on and how he's shy, and she was really surprised that he ended up as a sort of deputy sheriff. So she hasn't got that good relationship with her brother. She goes out at 3 a.m. in the morning, but then she just happens to bump into her brother. Now, the reason I'm saying this is part of the early connection is there's a good chance, because remember, the old brain here, yeah. Now, what we're looking at is Carole has potentially come into a threatening situation. All right, so remember, the information comes into the thalamus. It either goes to the cortex or the amygdala. It acts as that junction. You know, the police conductor, the white gloves and the whistle who directs the cars, it's exactly the same thing. If the amygdala detects a threat, it will talk to the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is where we start the hormone secretion, or at least part of the system. That goes to the pituitary gland to the adrenal glands. That's where we get the adrenal. We'll detect a threat. Our blood flow increases, our breathing increases, our heart rate increases. All right. Our ability to make cognitive decisions, our ability to be aware of the bigger picture is reduced. Okay? Is reduced. And this is what I feel Carole's going through. And it's just a feeling based on 20 years of experience. Because what she's doing here, she's almost building the perfect story, the perfect storm, if you will, for an alibi. So when she's out at 3 a.m. in the morning, when she meets her brother, who she hasn't got a good relationship, but he just happens to be the deputy sheriff. Yeah, the deputy sheriff at 3 a.m. in the morning. And then this is when you get the story. Oh, no. My husband said he was leaving early. And just in case you haven't heard that, I'm going to say early again. And just to make sure that you've got the point, early. Yeah, he was leaving early. But it wasn't that early, because I was out at 3 a.m. in the morning with my brother, and then I seen him a few hours later. So now me, early is anything before like 5 o'clock in the morning. And again, this is different depending on the individual. But the data, and again, please comment below. And thanks for all these comments. It's really good. I appreciate it, because you're educating me as well. Keep them coming. So she goes out at 3 o'clock for tiger milk. She happens to meet her brother, who's the deputy sheriff of the police station that investigates her murder, who she hasn't got a good relationship with. But they give her a lift back. Her husband's in bed. She sees him a few hours later. So that's got to be a few hours later. Let's just say it's 6, 7 o'clock. Is that early to you? Is 7 o'clock early? It just doesn't seem. There's just stuff here that I would definitely jump on and just dig that little bit deeper. Because when you just look at the data that Carole gives, remember, put everything else to the side. Yes, I was there at 3 o'clock. Yes, I met my brother. Yes, he gave us a lift home. Then my husband said he was leaving early. But I got home with my brother. My husband was still there. He left a few hours later. So what, did he leave at 7 o'clock in the morning, or was it early? So there's loads of questions. Again, I was going to actually seem frustrated, annoyed that she had to repeat the story. Yeah, there was definitely some energy there. But I think that's because of this. She's on the spot. She likes to control that situation. Again, she's got her brother involved, I believe. And again, it just, there's a narrative here that's coming out about Carole control and everything. She's been in control. She had the local police. Again, I don't know how it works in the US, but the sort of regional police seem to have quite a bit of sway within their local patch compared across here in the UK. So she's had everything in control. But at that particular moment, when she's asked about things that directly are connected with the disappearance of her husband, at that particular moment, that's when we see the sympathetic nervous system kick in. That's when we see that amygdala. That's when we see those adrenaline. That's when we see the manic laugh. That's when we see the stares. That's why I think that there's something else going on here. Because when she's asked specifically about that, it goes above her emotional baseline. Again, I don't know why, but I just know that it does. All the data is there to say if someone with solid questioning techniques was to go in there and start questioning her correctly, I think she would break within 10 minutes. I think I could have something out of her within 10 to 15 minutes. 100%, because the evidence is there that her body is reacting. And it's a bit like, all right, so let's put you in a personal situation. Have you or someone you've loved or a partner, have you ever done anything guilty? They sort of done something before and you're guilty. Let's just call it guilty. You know you've done it and you shouldn't have. All right? Because you're already coming from that angle of you know you're guilty, your body starts producing hormones, your body behavior alters because you know that you're guilty. And unless you're a psychopath or a sociopath, etc., it's actually very hard to hide those emotions because these ones are autonomous. They just come out. All right. So that's when you can spot little things. All right. But the actual control here that Carole's had throughout this, up until Tiger King has went on Netflix there, has been she's dominated that control space. His story stacked up. Her brother was the deputy. Her husband, and now husband's a lawyer. Whatever it may be. And she was also, there was nothing that they could actually pin on her. So she had that perfect storm. But what the body gives away, without any shadow of a doubt, is there is something that she's hiding. On a number of times, her body reacts in those what we call critical situations. I could have talked to Carole about the garden. I could have talked to Carole about tigers. I could have talked to Carole about the weather, and her emotional baseline would have been here. I know that I had said to Carole, were you the reason why your husband disappeared? Do you know anything about it? All the evidence from episode 3 is her emotional baseline. Boom, it goes. The laugh, the direct eye contact, the sort of Duchenne smile. All of this stuff is present at those particular moments where she's trying to defend her position. At those particular moments where she's trying to convince us that she hasn't had anything to do with it. Every single time one of those, above emotional baseline behaviors were present, it was around about her husband. And remember, there wasn't any empathy there. There wasn't any look downs. There wasn't any remorse. There wasn't any, just nothing. She just seemed very cold and very calculated. And I would be digging that little bit deeper. So again, it wasn't just the early. It was the number of factors that I've just been through, put them all together. And what we do know is there's definitely room. There's definitely information. There's definitely behavioral data there that we could dig that little bit deeper. So let's have some questions here. Remember what husband's behavior? God has a wicked sense of humor. It's called karma. Yes, that was the guy. I seen that. Maybe she paid Jeff to take you out. Expert analysis. Why don't these investigators use behavioral? So I've got no idea. But I think it's because, from the episode 3, there's something where the local police had their investigation. And because they had done it in a certain way, the next level of police or whatever that was their hands were almost tied because of the, not fantastic way the local police had investigated it, which was interesting because I think her brother was involved in that investigation, or at least had something to do, that influential figure on that investigation as well. So one thing I would like to point out, I just wanted to explain some of the behavioral observations that I made there. And again, if you've got any questions, connect with us at Instagram, BelieveInBruce360, but also Twitter at BelieveInBruce. 134 people. Oh, brilliant. This is a really popular one. Again, if you're happy with what I'm doing, please support the channel by giving a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe below as well. That would be great. Now, interestingly, this could be a bit of an evocative question. I'm not aware of, I've never been to the place where Carole's from, where Joe Exotic's from, where, anybody's from. But what I have had on my initial video, is tons of messages. And again, I don't know if we've got anybody around here from that area. Is that so? The first date, all right, and I will admit I did say it in a bit of a humorous way, all right, on my first video. The first date that Carole and Don had. So she was telling a story, and again, just because it's uncommon to me, it might be common for you guys living out in the States, but she narrated it in a certain way that she was walking down the street. She had a fight with her previous husband. She threw a potato at him. A potato. No. Hey, that might be the weapon of choice across in the States where she's from. Who knows? But she threw a potato at him, and she's walking down the street 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So that's the first bit of data. And she's never denied that. She's never tried to, change her tack. She was walking down the street 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And then Don, her husband, who's now the disappeared, stroke killed, stroke murdered, stroke fed to the tiger guy. We don't know. We can't point any fingers. He then comes past in a car and circles her 3 times going around the block, telling her to get in. All right, so it's the middle of the night. A guy who you've never met before circles round the block 3 times telling you to get in, but you don't. On the 3rd time or 4th time, whatever it is, he pulls up and he says, look, here's a gun. Here's a gun. I thought we were crazy in Newcastle. All right, here's a gun. Get in my car, and if I try anything with you, you can shoot me. So early in the morning, this car circles round her. She's never met him before, trying to get her in the car 3 times. He then hands her a gun and says, get in. If I do anything, you can shoot me. And then they end up sleeping together that night. Now, again, that just doesn't feel common. Yeah, that just doesn't feel common. I don't know what goes on over there. But what has been offered to me is, again, I've got no evidence other than the messages that people have sent me, is that the fact is that that area is renowned, is the go-to area in that particular part of America, that town, wherever it's from, where them two met, for, let's call it, ladies of the night. Ladies who have a certain job that for an exchange of money, a transaction of money, certain physical activities, sexual activities are carried out between a man and a woman in a car or a motel. So there's an inference here. There is an inference that what Carole isn't letting on to, and again, this is just one of the messages. I don't know this. I'm not backing up. But when you're getting 20, 30 messages all from different people say, Bruce, you really need to know this, that area is where prostitutes work. That's what these messages are inferring. So when you look at that, you think, okay, whether she was or she wasn't, no, hey, I do my job, she does hers, whatever. But, would that make sense? Would it make sense that that was her employment at that particular time? So she was middle of the night, a guy was trying to get her in the car, he then gave her a gun to shoot him if he tried anything, then they went back to a motel and had sex and spent the night together. Yeah, you could make an argument of that. Yeah, maybe that was her, but again, it would be an assumption. But that area, having done a couple of Google checks and just reread the messages to make sure I was following the thread again, that was probably the biggest number of messages that I have received. That's what seemed to be occurring. So again, I don't know if there's anybody here from that area who could sort of verify that if that location is a renowned for ladies of that persuasion trying to earn a living in that way. It would be good to get some information on that. But also the other husband. Yeah, the other husband. Now, again, because I haven't watched the full series of Netflix, I just wanted to do the body language video, and then I'm going to watch again. I might do another live show next week. It seems to be quite popular. Is that she had a previous husband who's also disappeared. Now, again, I haven't looked into this. This is something that I'm going to research later on this week, but I'm like, no, this cannot be true. So I just want to see if any of you guys down there, can sort of verify that story or nullify that story. But that is that's the stuff that's been offered. She had a previous husband, and a previous husband went missing, murdered, killed, something like that. So, and again, there's some questions about her now husband, Howard Baskin. Has she just married him because he's a lawyer? She's in control of her brother at the police station. Her dad now works for her, like a little sort of crime family going on there in that particular area. And the Tiger King documentary has just brought a whole load of different loss of control to Carole Baskin around this situation that she probably wasn't expecting. So this is something where I just wanted to explain why I was picking up on the cues. And remember, I offer no apologies from coming in the position that I'm trying to defend Carole, because that allows me to think, what would I not want the prosecution to see? Which allows me to be more truthful and more authentic about, rather than me wanting to make her guilty with conscious bias, subconscious bias, heuristic bias, catastrophization, magnification, all of these things that we do to create stories in our head. And again, I would like you to reflect here on this now, that maybe you've fallen out with somebody in the past. Maybe somebody hasn't been nice to you, or you felt wounded. And because of that hurt, even now you may hold a real resentment for that person. And that can be a form of that magnification, where we will dive into that heuristic bias. And that person, since that event, remember, it wounded you, and it might have meant nothing to that other person. They might have done 9 things which are absolutely brilliant, and then one thing that you're focused on, that you've just pushed the kind things away that they've done, and you're focused on the next time they messed up, or the next time they spoke to you in a certain negative way, and you've allowed that one bit of data to filter through, because that's the picture that you're trying to drive. You've formed this picture, and you're not aware that actually there may be other data out there that could reduce the intensity of that output that you're trying to create. And we can all do this. We all think, feel, and act. This is the whole purpose of this Believe in Bruce channel. Yeah, to get us more in control with our thoughts and feelings, to help us think, feel, and act that little bit better. And that's the angle that I would like to think from Carole, which is why I believe, which is why I'm confident. The information, because I come from an angle in my head of defending her, the stuff that I've said in this video and also the previous video that I'll put a link in, can be viewed as quite authentic, quite specific, worth questioning. Because I haven't come from an angle of, I'm jumping on the bandwagon and I want to prove her guilty. What I've come from is, I want to prove her innocent. What information would I not like the prosecution to see? So if you have got any questions, that's me on this Tiger King. Ask below about anything that you want to do from a body language perspective, and I'll answer 2 or 3 questions. Again, if you're liking what I'm doing here, please support the channel by giving me a thumbs up. Hit the like button, and also subscribe to the channel. And again, feel free to share any of my videos that any of the videos that are up there. Would be great, so if we can get some more exposure, great for my profile, but also if I can share the learning with more people about mental health, psychology, whatever it may be. That'll be a sort of win-win situation. So what we've got here, that you think about Howard. I haven't really got any information on Howard at the moment, because that's going to be on the next few episodes, and I've purposely stopped on episode 3 because I didn't want my heuristic bias or subconscious bias to be affected. So I've purposely not watched any more, but I will be watching them after this live stream, before we have the next live stream next week. Thank you for keeping us entertained during lockdown. Not a problem. Personal perspective, they all lie. When we say people all lie, we've all got the ability to lie. And again, there's a saying here that we say in the UK. There's always 2 sides to a story, when actually there's always 3 sides to a story. Because we will always, unless we're very acutely aware of it and we really try to go against it, we'll always paint our story. So if me and someone had an argument, or we fall out, and someone says what happened, we will always put a bit of magic on our side, and always trying to take a little bit of magic off the other side to make us in that better light. So actually, there's always 3 sides to a story. There's my side, there's your side, and then there's the actual truth. So again, through storytelling, and this is what the Netflix team have done very, very well. You've got an interesting bunch of characters, but they've purposely, again, within the first 5 minutes of episode 3, they are starting to lead your narrative. And I do believe they've done that very well, possibly unfairly against Carole. That there's enough information to say Carole is keeping something back. I would be quite confident, in fact I'm doing that now, to say she's not telling us everything. But what I also think is the Netflix production team have done a great job of messing with our bias and our storytelling, our narrative understanding of what's going on, by editing it in a certain way that encourages us to develop that particular narrative as well. So when people say they've all lied, I think we can all exaggerate. Yeah, we can all add things on, we can all keep things off. But what you can't deny, and this is what the body language channel is about, what you can't deny is that she'd done certain things at that particular time that didn't add up. And I won't say any more than that, because anything more would be an assumption on my part, but it didn't add up. And at those particular points, I would be on her like a rocket. Like a rocket. Any other questions coming up here? Who is the most honest? Well, again, this is very subjective. Very subjective, Gary. And thank you for the question. So I would say the most honest person, or the person that I would listen the most to in this situation here, would be, is it Annie? Is that right? Was it Annie? Was that Don's PA or Don's secretary or something like that? Again, if you can put it in the comments, it was. I'm sure it was Annie. But she seemed very balanced. In fact, her first thing was, I really like Carole. I really liked Carole, and Don wasn't an easy guy. And if you notice that when she was asked a question, she was always very balanced. She was always honest. She never went high. She never went low. So I think if out of anybody on there, taking out the lawyers and the police and Carole herself and Joe and all the people who had a point to prove, she seemed out of everybody the most in the middle of the road. So if I had to believe anybody, at least I would, to pick out and say, tell me what you think, it would have been Annie, if I believe that is her name. Okay, so hopefully you've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed your company. Is there any questions that you would like to ask me just before we finish? Again, on anything body language, psychology. If you think about anything after, again, connect with me at Twitter, which is Believe in Bruce, and Instagram, which is Believe in Bruce 360. Just follow me. I'm not that good with social media, so whatever the name is, where you just join my account, send me a message with any specific questions. And what I'll do is I'll see the questions, I always do, and I'll put them together to say, okay, next week's show will be based on the questions that I get from you guys. Because again, you're the audience. You've come. I really appreciate it. So why answer other people's questions when actually you guys and girls are the ones who are joining in, coming online and supporting my channel? So anything specifically you want to get to me, Instagram and Twitter. Could you please watch Making a Murder? What about the scene where she turns on current husband when walking past dead cat plaques? Weird. Okay, I'll have a look. I will have a look at that. That seems really interesting. Okay, so I've gone slightly over my hour. I hope it's been informative. I hope you've learned something. Again, appreciate it very much. Feel free to share it. Send me some questions, and I will do some more body language videos, hopefully, by next time. Obviously, lockdown. I hope everybody's well. It can be playing havoc with our mental health, with frustrations and everything. It can be a very, very scary time for a lot of people. That's why I'll always say, the whole purpose of this channel, remember to be kind to yourselves and each other. Until next week, thanks very much, and I hope to see you then. Cheers now.